All right, good morning, everybody. Nice to have you joining us today. And I'm excited this morning. We're going to take some time and we're going to get to hear from my wonderful daughter, Jael, who's going to share about her trip to the Cascades. So it's going to be fun to hear about that. I wanted to just take a quick moment, and I know that I've done this numerous times through this weird year, but just remind everybody that if you are struggling or lonely or just having a hard time, please reach out to somebody. I know it's more challenging right now to do community, but we have this awesome, amazing community where we can find strength from one another and life from one another and support from one another. It just takes a little more effort now. So don't feel like you just got to bear down and figure it out yourself. Lean into those that love you and care about you. With that, I just wanted to say that this week, especially for some reason, just feel like I'm missing everybody. Really wanting to get back to some sort of normal where we can be together and get a chance to worship together and pray together. And so I just want to send out that kind of love today, let you know in case you've forgotten that you're loved and we care about you and miss you. And someday life will be back to some sort of normal and we'll be able to all get together and hang out and just be family together. And I'm very much looking forward to that day. And so with that, just maybe an encouragement, if you're thinking about different people from the community this week or have been, of course, be praying for them, but maybe reach out, send them a text, email, give them a call, something, just so that we're staying in contact with one another and not completely disappearing from each other's lives on every level. So that's my little intro today for you. I did want to take a moment just to kind of quiet our hearts like we've been doing. And so for those of us here, we're going to just play a song before we start, and then I'll intro Jael again, and we'll let her share with us. All right. Just wanted to throw out there to everybody too, like I'm every week or whatever just thinking of different songs or music that we can play, and mostly just playing stuff that touches my heart in some way. So if you're out there and you've come across something that you really think is awesome or would be good on a Sunday, like tip us off. We can let us know about good music and good worship stuff that's out there. So you can do that anytime. Just text it to me, email it to me. It'll be great. I'm super excited today for my daughter to share. And I'm really proud of her for doing something that was very outside of her comfort zone, and she'll share more about that. I'm also very thankful that you're back alive. We didn't know, but this trip, there was no technology, so we couldn't hear from her for 3 weeks, which I know in other points of history, 3 weeks is really nothing, but we are very used to the technology we have, and it's very strange not to hear anything from your children for 3 weeks, not to be able to even know if they're okay / alive. So we were very grateful. At some point, it was like almost at the end of her trip, we got a letter from her, and so we knew that at least at one moment of time she was alive and that she was actually doing well. So that was a relief. And so I'm excited for her to share today. So why don't you come on up, hon, and give her a hand clap.
Thank you. Well, hello everyone. I think he mostly kind of summed it up, but just real quick, the trip was up in the Cascades, kind of in Leavenworth, Wenatchee area. We're just completely surrounded by mountains at this ranch with 19 students and 19 students and 5 adults that are helping out, 3 cooks, a teacher, and another TA. And then Whitworth students, and it was really fun. And the point of the trip was to explore both theology and how God calls us to care for creation and humanity's role in the world, as well as ecology and just the natural environment of that beautiful Cascades area that we were in. And like Dad said, no technology at all. So really just kind of getting away from everything and being able to spend really good time with God and not just God, but their creation as well is super impactful. So it was a great trip. I was super nervous to go because last time I didn't have my phone had to have been when I was grounded a long time ago. So I kind of don't know how to live life without it, and I was just a ton of new experiences. And so wanting to tell you guys about it, I could talk for hours. There's so many new things that happened, just jam-packed full of new and crazy, amazing experiences in 3 weeks. But I want to sum it up in 2 parts. First, how fun and adventurous and how that awakened my soul, part of that. And then I'll talk next about the more reflective time of it that was really inspiring and just helping me connect with both myself and God and people around me. Again, in a more quiet, reflective time. I would say those were the 2 most impactful things, but there's just hundreds. But for fun, I feel like I just had a crazy amount of fun. Another part of the trip, a really big part, was cross-country skiing. We did it pretty much every day. That was one of the things I was super nervous for, and it was pretty hard at first to learn. But I actually picked it up really fast with the help of a game called Frisky. You may be thinking you heard that wrong, but you heard that right. It is called Frisky. It is ultimate frisbee on skis. So it's just crazy. I'm sure you can picture that in your head, just ridiculous. But it really helped me learn, actually, because you're not thinking about skiing and technique. You're thinking about catching a frisbee and throwing it. But I just became the hugest fan of that game ever, and I was just the biggest hype man and making everyone play it every day, and it was just so much fun, just a ton of joy to be outside and moving and doing something kind of competitive but also still fun and silly. Was really great. So that was one of my funnest parts, as well as just our actual ski tours that were 6 hours long. The first one was 10 miles, and that was 3 days after we got there. So I had never skied before in my life, and within 3 days of learning, we went on a 10-mile ski. Quite a lot, but it was so much fun, and I just felt in awe of God's creation the whole time that we're just skiing through the most beautiful place in the world. The Cascade Mountains, we're literally just in the middle of them, in the middle of a forest, it's indescribably beautiful. But I felt from the start of that long ski tour of the first 3 days, I felt kind of more adventurous and opening up and being less afraid of everything. And just something flipped that day or the next where I just wanted to have the most fun I could and do adventurous, dangerous things. And so there was a point where I actually climbed up kind of sideways on a mountain, and my professor had to run up and save me because if I fell, I would have died, and it was pretty close to that, which my mom was really happy to hear about. But the point of that being that I just felt like I wanted to be adventurous and do crazy, fun things again, which I felt like for the last, I don't know how many years, has really been lacking from my life. And a helpful letter from my dad during that time reminded me that when I was a kid, I was crazy adventurous. I would climb a lot of trees that I probably shouldn't have, and freaked my mom out as well with that, and just did a lot of adventurous kind of crazy things when I was young. And I think that brought me a lot of joy and kind of filled my soul. And so then when I became, again, super adventurous and crazy and just wanting to do hard, challenging, outside, nuts things, I thought that it was a complete 180 of my current personality. But that letter from my dad helped me remember that that was how God kind of originally made me. And God does talk a lot in the Bible about us, how being childlike is important. And that was how I was as a child, a little crazy, just doing crazy things. But I just thought that was really cool that that part of my soul got to be kind of awakened again. And that's exactly how I feel coming back from this trip, that my soul is alive, and so many, like I said, so many experiences there that just really changed me as a whole person, and I feel really full. So that's pretty great. There are a lot of other fun things like new card games and worship, and we had a talent show that was all crazy and all sorts of things that just were ridiculous a lot of the time. So just super fun in that way that you get to experience so much joy. And also being with people, no masks, no social distancing because we all tested negative for COVID multiple times. Like that was crazy. Like being able to hug people and be in fellowship and community and put hands on people when you're praying for them, that was also really fun and amazing. So that was kind of the first biggest takeaway from the trip for me is how fun and exciting and adventurous it was for me. But another big part of it was actually spending a lot of quiet time in reflection and solitude, which a lot of you guys know me pretty well. I'm not really a quiet person, so I kind of hated it at first, but then, you guys probably experienced it before, like being in quiet silence and really focusing on God just reaps good things, like God really touches us there when we are purposefully leaving all distractions behind and trying to really connect with them. And so we did that a lot, multiple times throughout the day. There was 30-minute silent Lectio Divina in the morning, and then there was study time for 2.5 hours, which would be like half ecology work, half theology work we would be studying. And then we'd have other random points of just silence to, like I said, like reflect with God. And on Sundays, we would take the Sabbath really seriously. So we would go out wherever we wanted into the wilderness and just sit and pray in silence with God for usually about two hours, maybe 2.5. But times like that were just incredibly impactful when I thought they were going to drive me nuts. And at first they were super weird because normally I like to zone out watching Netflix or listening to music or looking at social media, stuff like that. Just so that we're just used to never being quiet anymore. The society's used to constantly having distractions and things around us that are making noise, and music isn't bad. Music is great and can help you reflect, but the absence of it I think can take things to a deeper level sometimes, not all the time, but they really did for me there. And so just those quiet reflective times really had a lot of great times for me with God. I feel like I had some epiphanies about my current life and how I want to change things, and epiphanies about myself and about staying true to who I was before this, and being myself 100% because I just felt so much love and support from the people there. Other things we took a day of lament, which I've never done before, and hopefully I can get my art back. I accidentally turned it in without taking pictures, but if I can, before this is up, I will also add another video clip in explaining it. But the day of lament we lamented in silence for a long time that day about creation specifically and how the earth is suffering due to environmental crisis, global warming, etc. Go listen to my other message. But that was really challenging to do at first because we don't practice that here a lot, and just actually observing and looking at sad things purposefully is sad. But the idea of lament is to find hope through it and to see the good things that can come out of that, and just acknowledge that we have sinned against God too much, and there's consequences to that, very, very dire ones. Go see my message. And but ended up turning out really well for me. I felt like God really gave me a piece of their heart, and hopefully, like I said, I can share the art piece. If not, maybe we'll send it out in an email once I can get it. But I ended up doing an art piece about, I don't want to spoil it, but it's called Creation Cries Out, and it's kind of about the mountains, kind of about climate crisis. You'll see it eventually. But I didn't feel like it was my inspiration at all. I was actually trying to draw and paint something else, and it wouldn't work. I literally could not draw what I wanted to draw. I could only draw what I felt that God was putting into my heart. And then same thing when I tried to paint it and make it what I wanted. Literally just a splash of black paint appeared out of nowhere. It was crazy. So I really feel that was God sharing a piece of their heart with me. And being able to express that in art is really wonderful for me because that's a way that I feel like I worship and connect with God. So that was just incredible and amazing. I did another art piece and a visual exegesis of Psalm 65 that I also felt was really cool, where I got to express how in that psalm I felt God being portrayed visually in an artistic way. And again, that was something I did in silence and reflective time. So it was just wonderful. And all in all, I feel like the experiences I had there, the fun, crazy, silly, artistic, reflective, solitude, silence, all of them all together have just really made me feel more alive and valued by both my peers up there and my family and by God. And I feel more affirmed in who I am, and I feel calls to action to act differently than I have been, pursuing different things, speaking out truth into the world, and just knowing what I deserve and what is fun and what's good for my soul. From just those short 3 weeks, it was shocking and amazing, and I feel really great and happy, and just can't wait to share more with you guys. Hopefully I can get that art out, and maybe we can all go skiing together. We can get a group church frisky team going. We can all get frisky together. Pretty fun. Yeah, well, thanks for listening, you guys, and would love to share more. Reach out to me if you want to know more details and stuff, and hopefully there'll be some beautiful pictures right after this too. But we'll pass it back to Dad for now.
Now I'm going to put her on the spot and do a little interview here or something. So, I know. Actually, I just was wondering if you would share about, like, going into this. This was an opportunity that happened through Whitworth and was made available to you. And so was this something that you felt, like, did you hear God speak out of heaven for you to do this? Or were you just kind of like, something in your heart was like, I should do this? Because I know leading up to it, you were super nervous, and there's a lot about it at the time. You're like, I'm not sure this is actually something I'm going to enjoy, or, and so was this something you had a clear, like totally clear direction on, this is something you're supposed to do, or was it more just kind of a step of faith, risk kind of thing?
I think the ultimate answer is that it was definitely a step of faith and a risk. At the beginning when I signed up for the trip, because you sign up for these Jan term trips like almost more than a year, I think, before you go on them, or about a year. But I remember hearing a lecture about a monasticism trip up in the Jan term, that same area, the Cascades, they go every other year, and being interested in that, but then finding out that this professor I really loved, who I talked about my last message, who really inspired me theology and ecology-wise, led this other trip that is similar to the monasticism one, but focused more so on creation and ecology. And I just thought that would be a wonderful experience for me, so I just kind of dived into applying for it. And then when I got accepted and everything, I was still super excited about it and like, oh, this will be great. The technology thing will be really hard, but I think it will be good for me. And so, I felt definitely called to, like, there were other options, and I felt most that God wanted me to do that when I was praying about some other spring term trips or something like that, and that one felt the most right. But then I didn't kind of really think that much about it until like a month before we were going, when I found out all the crazy things we were doing and how stretching it would be, and that it was not going to be just fun and informative. It was actually going to be extremely challenging and full of risks and hard for me, just to complete 180 of what my life is now. Even just the fact that we get up at 7 every single day, or that's when we have to be in the lodge, so we get up at like 6:30, and I usually sleep till like noon every day. So just even that fact of knowing I was going to be exhausted, and then skiing, and then working with God, and then not being able to talk to my family, and no technology, and everything like that is just tough. And so I was starting to get pretty dang freaked out like a month before, and scared and doubting, and even thinking like, because there was a while where it was like if people tested positive for COVID, we weren't going to be able to go, and I was like okay with that fact and almost hoping for it sometimes. But then when it just became more evident and clear that we were going to go, and even though it was scary, I was like, okay, I am going to take a step of faith, because at that time too, I was realizing I wasn't happy with some of the other parts of my life and needing some intense. Sometimes you just need time in the mountains to reevaluate your life. And so even though I knew it was going to be incredibly hard and challenging, I still decided to take that step of faith. And the first couple of days were really hard for me. I was full of challenges. And like I said, there was just a switch in the third or fourth day where I just gave that to God and was like, let's make the best out of this experience and see what I can actually get from it, and not sit in fear this whole time and actually trust and have faith in God. So that was kind of that experience.
Awesome. Thank you. I was setting you up with that question. Or not you up, but everybody else up. And I was just thinking about Jael and her trip and everything that happened. And I think sometimes, I guess, I wanted to just throw out there for you to think about and be considering is that sometimes when people come back from an experience and we get to hear all the amazing things that happened that God did, I think we can sometimes think, well, that is because they had all this faith that all these amazing things were going to happen, and they totally knew this was something that God had for them. And I think so oftentimes reality is very different than that. A lot of times it's just us not really knowing, but just saying we're going to try this. We're going to do something. God, I'm going to put myself out there and see if you will meet me. And then God comes through so many times when we will just do that. And so, as you're hearing Jael share, if that's inspiring you or challenging you and you're thinking and praying about like, God, please help me see something, like, just remember it wasn't always so clear. Even for Jael, there was lots of moments of doubt. Is this something I should do? Isn't it? And I think the big thing for us as people is just to take those steps of faith, like just to try something new, just to put yourself in a situation where God has to come through or your faith has to show itself. And that ends up being a place that God can really do amazing things in our life when we do that. And so even in the midst of a pandemic, even when so much of life has shut down, I guess I want to encourage you to just be open, to put yourself in some situations and some places that are different. And it's not about knowing 100% this is what God wants me to do. A lot of times it's just being like, okay, I think this is what God wants me to do. I'm going to step out and just see what happens. And when we do that, God will come through. To end today, I want to play another song. And again, just in light of what Jay was sharing today, I want us just to listen to the lyrics, but really meditate on them and ask God to speak to our hearts. And in this song, I think it speaks to the reality that God will and is wanting to meet us wherever we are. Again, it's awesome when we get a chance to go to mountains because he's there. It's awesome when we get to go on some program, whether it be a mission trip or something that a college does or whatever. Those are amazing moments and God is there. But God is with us in our everyday life, and God can, if our hearts are open to it, and even sometimes when they're not, God will just break in the most mundane, can be your bedroom on a Thursday night when you think you're going to fall asleep and you don't. And God, if you'll open your heart, is there to speak to you and do something in your life. And so listen to these lyrics as we play this and meditate today on that. Pray for a while. Then we'll be done. Oof, that's a good one. That should be on repeat. That's the Judah guy that I've played before from Judah and the Lion. And the song's called I Am. We'll put it in the video on a link to it on there. But just let that soak over you and remember that doesn't matter if you're up in the mountains, doesn't matter if you're stuck here in Spokane. Like, God is with you wherever you are. And if you will just stop for a moment and, like Jay said, maybe sit in silence or turn this song on and play it, whatever. God's waiting to pour out love on you and remind you of who you are, remind you of who he is, and we all need that. So love you guys and hope you're doing well. If you're not, reach out and we'll figure out a way to love on you that way. Love you.